We're live. Thank you for watching. Welcome back. Welcome if you are new. If you like this kind of content, give us a like. And if you want to see more, drop us a subscription. Give us a subscribe. And I've been doing this just about every day. So there should be something new and fun for some definition of the word fun. Pretty regular. So going to talk a little bit about narrative warfare. It happens all the time right now in this whole climate change thing. And I put scare quotes around that because climate change itself is a form of narrative warfare. The word climate change came to us from a bunch of people who didn't want us to be worried. All right. And you should be worried. You should be really worried. You should be very anxious, and you should be thinking about, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? What are any of us going to do? Because that's really your situation. Our Titanic has hit the iceberg, and now is not a time for narrative warfare that the captain hasn't figured out, or the ship can't sink, or the ship is too big to sink, and a silly little iceberg can't do anything like that, and silly little people driving great big boats can't possibly sink a ship. And that's all narrative warfare. Here we hit the iceberg. Okay, our Titanic is going down. So that's reality. That's what I call physics, right? Gravity wins. That's what's going to happen. So one form of narrative warfare is this thing about climate change. And other forms of narrative warfare are things like taking climate action. I know everybody wants to take climate action. You can't even tell me what that means. Nobody can, because it's not a thing. There's no such thing. You can't even tell me what climate change is. And everyone thinks they understand what these things mean. And this is what language does. Language creates boxes in our head into which we can put ideas, right? And so we didn't used to have a box in our head, a little container for our fears about messing with the Earth dynamic system. We didn't have a box for that. So someone invented a box, and they named it something that sounded pretty innocuous. It's not as innocuous as, unicorn change. That would be really like, what is that at all, right? What's a unicorn? Those are mythical beasts. So they called it climate change, which is a little more realistic, sciencey sounding thing. And they gave that to you as a box into which you can throw your anxieties about what we're doing to the Earth system. And it works, because all your anxieties go into this box called climate change. And everyone talks about climate change, and everyone puts another anxiety in their box called climate change. And there's nothing you can do about climate change. No one even knows what it is. They can imagine they know what it is. I mean, it's a box in their head, and it contains all their anxieties. And every time someone comes up with another thing about climate change, you just put that in the box, right? That's not your problem. There shouldn't be a climate change shaped box in your head, because that's not your problem. And by putting all your anxieties in that box, you basically swept them under the rug, because climate change is never going to be a problem for you. It just won't, because you don't even know what that is. It could happen to you, and you wouldn't even know. You would blame it on something else. You blame it on the weather. Tornadoes, that's weather. Hurricanes, that's weather. Droughts and floods and hail apocalypse, that's all weather, right? Because you don't have the right size box. You have a climate change box. And those things don't fit in the climate change box. Those things fit in the weather box. But they're not climate change. And they're really, at this point, they're not even weather anymore. What you're seeing are all the impacts expected and now delivered, seen, witnessed for global heating. Global heating is what it is. And as soon as I change it to global heating or excessive heat, then you automatically sit up and say, heat, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's what we're up against. Enhancements to the greenhouse effect. And those enhancements are caused by excessive release of CO2 into the atmosphere. And where's that coming from? That's coming from humans. And how are humans doing that? All the humans practically on the Earth are doing that. Even the ones without cars are doing that, because it's however you want to burn fossil fuels. And what are those? Coal, oil, and natural gas. And we use fossil fuels for everything, all the time, everywhere, 24/7. Everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you think, everything you say, everywhere you go, and every way that you get there. And all the food in the market, and all the clothing on the rack, and everything everywhere all the time, 24/7, is all fossil fuels. And you can't even start your day without fossil fuels. You don't know you're doing that, but you're doing that. And it causes, in the end, after a whole bunch of things have to happen, and they're all inevitable, they're all just like this causes that, causes this, causes that, and the dominoes fall. And the last domino is global heating. And that's a thing. That's a real thing. You can measure it from space with satellites, and we do. And we know what the average temperature of the planet is, and we know that it's going up, and we know how fast it's going up, and we know when it started to go up, and we know why it's going up. This is all science. It's not climate science, because there is no real climate science. I mean, there's climatologists, and they study climate and they study the Earth system, but really what's happening is physics. It's just physics. That's all. There's really nothing to say. There's just nothing to say. We're enhancing the greenhouse effect with all of our CO2 emissions, and it's causing the planet to heat up. Now, from that, you get all this other harm that comes at you because the planet got hotter. The oceans heat up, and it kills the coral reefs, and it kills the fish, and it disrupts the food supply and the food chains. And all these fish are dying, and all the whales are dying, and the pelicans are dying, and the penguins are starving to death and failing to breed and failing to reproduce. You get too many years of failure to reproduce, pretty soon there's no penguins. And you won't even know. They won't even tell you. You'll just maybe 20 years from now, you'll learn that in some year 2025 or 2026, the penguins went extinct, but no one told you because they didn't want you to know, because they don't want to put penguin extinction in your head, because you would just blow up. You would just break if you knew that all the penguins went extinct, or most of them, and you wouldn't know what to think of that. You don't have the right box in your head for that. They've given you the climate change box, but climate change is supposed to be non-threatening, and you can't put a threatening thing in a climate change box. And everyone thinks I have this figured out, and they don't. You've also come to narrative warfare. And a lot of the narrative warfare is originating with the fossil fuel industries and the Chamber of Commerce and big corporations and big tech and governance and the UN, and they're all playing the same game. The IPCC reports, they're full of narrative warfare, chock a block with narrative warfare. And the COP, all the COPs, all the Conference of the Parties, that's narrative warfare in the title. You don't even know what they're meeting about. What they're meeting about is global heating. They don't tell you that. It's not even in the title, Conference of the Parties. That's narrative warfare, okay? That's narrative warfare right there in front of you. Conference of the Parties. What are they going to talk about? I don't know. It's on to sports. So that's what's happening. Now, there's another form of narrative warfare that is just as dangerous as all that. And it's probably worse. And they're playing this now because they have to. And the narrative warfare I'm talking about is numbers. Numbers. They've been feeding you numbers since the Paris Climate Accords. And one of the reasons they did what they did, setting the goals, having numbers as goals. Numbers as goals. Numbers as goals. Okay? Like a speed limit on a street. That's a goal, right? That's the speed limit on the street is a goal. And you look at the speed limit and you'll think, well, maybe I want to go that fast. Maybe I want to go faster. Is anyone looking? Am I going to get caught? I mean, that's what goals are. The speed limit out on your street, that's a recommendation. That's a goal. That's something that people might want to attain, right? That you may want to drive at that speed. And right now they're giving us goals regarding global heating. And they're saying things like, and this is all carefully nuanced, and you think you know what they mean when they say this, but you don't. You don't. It's not your fault. It's their fault. They're supposed to be explaining things to you clearly, but they don't want to, because they want you to just accidentally make the wrong assumption about what they're saying. They could be very clear, but they don't want to be very clear. They want to obfuscate and hide behind half-truths. Nothing they're saying is incorrect or a lie, but they're not telling you everything you need to know. And the numbers I'm talking about are the guardrails, the safety limits, like the speed limit for global heating, not for climate change, for global heating, because the numbers we're talking about are temperature, because global heating is the problem, not climate change. That's narrative warfare. You just need to get that out of your head. Just stop thinking about that. And every time they use climate change, or some pundit on some podcast talks about climate change, you just need to sit back. You just need to sit back and say, okay, they're talking about climate change. They're not even defining those words. They're not even telling us what they're talking about. They're just saying climate change is a problem. We need climate action. Everyone needs to be educated about climate change. Climate change is the biggest threat we've ever faced, and climate change is caused by humans, and climate change is the other thing. And they're just, I mean, you're like nod, 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 because you've got a climate change shaped box in your head. And all their words are going into that box, and you're going words, words, words. Yeah, I hear the words, but you come out of it knowing nothing more than you went into it, because that's the point. All right. But when the Paris Climate Accords were signed, everyone signed it, they signed on to a number, not this nebulous climate thing, because that's not a thing. Global heating is a thing. And how do we measure heat in this context? We measure it with a thermometer. And what they were talking about was a deviation in temperature above a certain a certain agreed upon, not necessarily acceptable, by the way. Let's just start somewhere. They agreed on a baseline. And what, 1850 or sometimes even 1995. It's just obscene. Okay, but they agree on a baseline, and then they say, okay, compared to that temperature back in the day, whenever that day was, compared to then, we should not exceed that except by this amount. So they're already accepting that they're going to exceed something. And if you wanted to, you could take this baseline temperature, 1850 or 1750 or 1995, which was stupid. Let's say 1850. You could take that as the speed limit. All right? That's what's posted. You could take that as the speed limit. And when they say, oh, we're not going to exceed that by more than a certain amount. So they're saying they're going to go faster than that. Because the speed limit, 1850 or 1750 or whatever it was, the speed limit is just a recommendation. And we all have good reasons for not doing that, right? We're going down the street, we're in a hurry, late for an appointment, the kids are getting out of school, I'm not going to be there, and we go faster. And sometimes our justification for going faster is that it's fun. What's the point of having an 800 horsepower supercar that I bought from the Dodge dealership 5 minutes ago? What's the point of having an 800 horsepower supercar if I'm not going to break all the speed limits? So you do. And that's just what you do, because the speed limit's way down here. This is a recommendation. So what they're doing with the Paris Climate Accords and the COPs and everything else is they recognize that, yeah, there is a point that's the recommendation. We should not have exceeded that, but we did. So now we've already accepted that we're going to exceed a number, a temperature, and but we're only going to exceed it by this much because we think that's safe. We want to exceed it. And we're going to. We may exceed it by a lot, but we're going to tell you right now it's safe. It's okay to exceed this number by this much because it's safe. That's narrative warfare. They have no idea if that's safe. The speed limit in a school zone is, at least around here where I live, is 25 miles per hour. There's a good reason for that, because children bolt out into the street all the time. Children have no situational awareness. They're little people, right? We don't want to hurt them. So we tell drivers to go down when you're in the school zone, go 25 miles an hour or less and watch for children. There's 2 signs, three signs often, 25 miles per hour, school zone, watch for children, right? It's all there. That's why it's 25 miles an hour. And some people don't think that's a good baseline. They think 35 is better, or maybe even 45 or 50, because I don't see any kids. And it's a school zone, but the kids are in school. So in my parlance, because it's a school zone, it's only a school zone if there's kids out. And when they're not out on the street, it's not a school zone. It's a me zone. So I'll go as fast as I want. And so when the Paris Climate Accords come out and they say, okay, this is our baseline, and we're going to exceed that by this much, and we have reasons. We have reasons. And the reasons are they like what they're doing. And people who go through a school zone at 50 miles an hour like what they're doing. Okay, that's why they're doing that. They like it. So if you're going to make these things recommendations, that it's a number, but it's a recommendation, and we're going to exceed it because that's fun, and we'll have a big party, and we'll go fast, and we'll enjoy our 800 horsepower car racing up and down in front of the elementary school, impressing the little kids. I mean, why would you do that? What you have a mental problem, okay? You should be seeking therapy, but you're not. You're racing up and down in front of the elementary school, going 50 miles, 60 miles an hour in your 800 horsepower car, and the recommendation is 25 miles an hour, and you're going 50, and because you like it, that's why you're doing it. And why did they pick 1.5 degrees above baseline for the Paris Climate Accords? Because they like it. There were other people saying 1 degree C above baseline could be really bad. But they're saying, oh, well, that's in the past now. We're already well above 1. So we can't have that as a goal because that would mean we can't have fun anymore. So we're going to pick 1.5. We swear our best swear, pinky and the whole thing. No, we're not going to exceed 1.5, except they exceeded 1.5 like 6 months ago. So now, since numbers are just numbers, right? One number is as good as another. And if you don't want to go 25 miles an hour in a school zone, and you think 35 is actually better, and no one asked you, but that's what you're going to do. Well, what's wrong with 55 or 60 or 100, right? I mean, if we're going to break out, we're just going to throw all this shit in the gutter. Well, then the sky's the limit, right? So since they convinced us that this baseline, is a recommendation, and going above it this much is a number. We can go above it. It's a number. Well, then if we don't like that number either, I mean, 1 was a number, and now 1.5 is a number, but that's not convenient because we exceeded it 6 months ago. So now we're just going to pick another number, right? Now it's 2. And really, I mean, why stop there? We know we're going to exceed 2, and we might even exceed it next month. Well, why play this game? And just ignore the recommendations. Just ignore the 1850 average. Just way down here. That's stupid. That's retarded. We can't have that. 1850. People rode horses back in 1850. We can't have that. So where do we stop exceeding the limits? And the idea is, well, you don't, because like the sign out in front of the school, it's a suggestion because it's unenforceable unless there's an actual police officer there. And then what can the police officer do? They catch you after you speed through the school zone at 55 miles an hour. And then they write you a ticket. But does that stop you from turning around and coming right back at 55 miles an hour? No, it doesn't. The ticket is, I caught you breaking the rule, and now you're going to pay a ticket, and you can come back tomorrow and do exactly the same thing. And if you don't get caught, great. And who says you ever pay your ticket, right? You just have a glove box full of tickets from all the times they've written you a ticket for doing the same thing. You just stuff that one in on top of the 50 or 60 others, and you just drive up and down the street in front of the school however you want to. And it's a recommendation anyway. And so this is the problem with numbers. This is the problem with numbers. Now, a better way to manage a school zone is not to have a number that says, look, please, think about the children and go 25 miles an hour and watch for children because it's a school zone. Okay, you could do that. Or you could put in great big speed bumps. You can still have a sign that says 25 miles an hour, and right next to it, you have a sign that says speed bump, vehicle damage likely. And so if someone goes through at 25 miles an hour, they go over the speed bump, and it's not a big deal. And if they go through in front of the school at 55 miles an hour, they tear out their transmission. That's bad, but it's no longer a recommendation for most people. If you go through here too fast, you tear out your transmission. We're not even going to write you a ticket. We might write you a ticket after the fact. You must have been going pretty fast. In addition to having an expensive transmission repair bill, now you have a bill for $50, a ticket for $55 or something. So these recommendations, the whole Paris Climate Accord thing was just, well, here's one number. We'll put another number on top of that. We won't exceed this. But if that doesn't work, we'll just put another number. And they're already talking, since they know they're going to exceed 2.0 this summer, they're just going to put another number on top of that with nothing. I mean, 2.0, that was a goal. But the whole thing is a recommendation. So we'll just recommend a higher number. And they're just going to keep doing this. And by the time they're recommending 4.0, people will have forgot that the baseline was already 1850, which is pretty deep into global heating. We've been burning coal for a while. And cutting down forests for longer than that. So people will forget that the baseline used to be 1850. And at some point, they're just going to change the baseline to 1950. And now when they're saying, oh, we can be 2 degrees above baseline, they've moved the goalpost. And now you're 2 degrees above something that's already pretty high. And they can just keep ratcheting this thing up. They'll just change the baseline, and they'll put their number on top of that. And they'll say, well, right now we're at 2.0 above an 1850 benchmark. And so let's just move it to a 1950. And all of a sudden, we're only a half a degree above 1950. Well, that's nice. Problem solved, right? And then when we're 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees above the 1950 baseline, they move it to 2000. Look, we're only a half a degree warmer than the 2000 baseline. And they'll just keep doing this. And all you've got is a climate change shaped box. And you can't evaluate any of this because they just keep putting different things, different types of words and narrative into your climate change shaped box. And you never understood that the problem isn't climate change because that's a nothing. The problem is global heating. That's the problem. It's physics. And all the time that they're playing at this narrative warfare about where's the baseline and how much is it above, and it's all voluntary, and if 1.5 is good, then 2.5 is probably just almost as good, right? So why give up the party? Why give up all of your driving and flying and moving goods and having parties in Ibiza? And why give all that up at 1.5 or 2.0? And we'll just set the baseline to 2.5. I mean, the limit to 2.5. And it's like going to the school zone and taking down the 25-mile-per-hour sign and putting up a 55-mile-per-hour sign. Well, now there's fewer tickets, right? And there's no physical harm because there's no speed bump. And so we and if the kids get killed, we can say, well, look, they have to be more careful. They shouldn't just run out into the street tracing a ball or chasing their friend. Children got to be more careful. We need more adults on the sidewalks up and down in front of the school. Every parent has to stand there on the sidewalk when their kid comes out and walk their child. That's the new rule because the speed limit is 55. This is like a thoroughfare now, right? And maybe we'll just set it to 60 and people will understand, yeah, cars are going fast through here. So, be there when your child gets out of school. Take your child by the hand. Walk your children to the car, and the car could be parked a half a mile away, whatever. That's what you have to do. Because cars are coming through at 60 miles an hour because we had to raise the speed limit because we didn't want them to be responsible for writing people tickets when they exceed 25. It's just narrative warfare because there's no actual way to enforce any of this. There's no actual comeuppance if you disobey it. And it becomes inconvenient as hell to constantly write tickets for people. And it doesn't even save the children because all they're worried about is a ticket, and they're racing up and down in front of the school until they kill a child. Then they have a big problem. Now it's manslaughter, okay? And maybe they lose their license or whatever, but that's one person. And between the one person and the one person who hit a child and got 30 days of community service for manslaughter, there were tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cars that went down in front of that school and didn't hit a child. This is progress, okay? So it's the same thing with climate change, right? They just keep throwing numbers into your head and say, well, this is a number, but this number is okay too, because they're both numbers and they're pretty close. 1.5 is pretty close to 2, which is pretty close to 2.5, which is not too far from 3. And so they just keep doing this. They just keep feeding you new numbers, and they keep moving the baseline from 1750 to 1850 to 1950. And it's just all numbers. And you're like, okay, fine. This is climate change. All right, put it in my climate change box. And someday we'll do something about climate change. And it's just another number anyway. So it's fine. It's narrative warfare, and you're falling for it. Everybody's falling for it. It's not even you personally, but you are. You're falling for it. You're going to go to your grave with those ideas in your head. And there's going to be a tornado that kills a bunch of people, and they're going to be thinking climate change. And there's a number, and we're not supposed to exceed the number, and the tornado is going to kill them. A hurricane's going to come ashore, and it's going to be the biggest hurricane ever. It's going to be 2,000 miles across. It's going to have a 40-foot storm surge, and it's going to just slab entire communities. Nothing but the foundations left. Wash them out to sea, and all the people that ran those buildings. And it's going to be like, well, that can't be climate change because we're still below our goal. We haven't exceeded 2.0. We haven't exceeded 3.0. The new goal was 4.0. We haven't exceeded that. So whatever happened, that must have been weather. That was just weather. We've had hurricanes and they've damaged homes. And so this hurricane was 2,000 miles across and it had 300 mile an hour winds, but it's still a hurricane. And that's weather. And I don't have to worry about climate change until I exceed some number. When I exceed that number, then I expect the government to do something about climate change. And that's it. That's your programming. It's done. They've won. One and done. They completely won. That was never your problem. Your problem was always physics. Your problem was global heating, you see, global heating. And the planet's getting hot. But they're teaching us to color by numbers. You know those comic books where there's a picture and it's made up of patches. Each patch has a number in it. And you're supposed to go to the paint tray that comes with the coloring book. You go to the paint tray and you take your brush and you wet the brush and you go to number 1 and you get the number 1 color, whatever it is, red, blue, yellow. And then you find all the little patches that have a 1. So you paint those all, right? It's almost like building a puzzle, right? You paint all the 1s. And then they tell you, okay, now the number is 2. So you clean your brush of the number one color, and you go back to the number two color, and you pick the number two color, and you paint all the boxes that have the number two on them, and you still don't see the picture. Okay, well, this is a puzzle. It's fun, right? And they say, okay, now the number is three. So you rinse your brush and you go back to the paint tray and you pick up the number three color, and you go around and you paint all the number three boxes, because that's how you do it. That's how you solve this puzzle. It's just by numbers, right? And so you just dutifully, you've been trained. Your parents taught you, or somebody taught you, the way you play this game is you have a brush and you wet it and you get the color with the number next to it. And then you go and you find all those patches and you color in those patches with that number, coloring by numbers. And when you're done, you'll have a really cool picture of what's going on that page. And you didn't start out with knowledge of what was going to be on the page. You didn't start out with knowledge of any kind. You simply had instructions. And the instructions was, for one, do this, for two, do that, do three, do something else. It's coloring by numbers. It's kind of mindless, right? And you have a really nice picture that you made, okay, by following the rules. You made the picture by following the rules. You didn't paint the picture. You didn't think, this is a good place for yellow. I'll get some yellow and I'll paint some of that. Oh, I think I need some green around that. Okay, I'll get some green. I'll do it. Okay, that's what an artist would do, right? That's what an artist would do. But you're not an artist, or you didn't want to do it that way. And it's just easier to take a color by numbers book and have your paint tray and your brush and your water, and you color by the numbers, right? Because you're not an artist. And then you get a picture and you say, look at the picture I made. Well, you followed the rules. That's good, right? Learning how to follow rules and how to go through steps, that's good. And so now you have the full picture. And if this was the climate change picture, the picture is you're fucked. That's what you are. You finally figured it out. You did all the steps. You did the one when it was one time. You did the two when it was two time. And when it was three time, you got the paint. You did the three. And after you did the 6 or 8 different colors, then you look at the picture when it's completely painted. And now you're up to 8 degrees C above baseline. And you're looking at the picture and it says, you're extinct. You're fucked. You're just totally screwed. And you're like, well, wait, I did what they said. I focused on the numbers. And they told me that this was the way to figure it out, that it was 1.5 degrees C above baseline, and then it was 2, and then it was 2.5, and then it was 2.7, and then it was 3, then it was 3.2, and then it was 3.4, and then it was 3.8. Okay, I just did what they told me to do. I had a climate-shaped puzzle in my head, and they had the numbers, and I followed the numbers, and I filled in the blanks, and at the end it says I'm fucked. How'd that happen? I thought by following the numbers and painting in all the boxes and forming the picture eventually, it would be like salvation. They were going to solve our problems this way. But now it says I'm fucked. That's rude. That's not helpful. That's just a trick. You played a trick on me. Well, yeah, but now you're fucked. So what are you going to do about it? Nothing. That's what you're going to do about it. You're going to be doing nothing. Meanwhile, we all had a big party. Didn't you like your party? Didn't you like coloring by numbers? Isn't that what you really wanted? Because if you wanted something else, you could have told us you wanted something else. You could have told us you wanted to be saved from global heating. You could have told us that, but you never did. And anytime a politician ran for office who says, I'm going to save the people from global heating, you voted him out of office. You said, I can't have that guy in there. He sounds like a wacko. So instead, I'm going to vote for this other person who says that it's all a hoax. And, you kept going along and you listened to the IPCC reports and you read the documents and you talked about the numbers with your friends and neighbors and you evaluated the charts and you did this and you watched the podcast and you did all these other things. And then at the end, when you painted in the picture and all the colors were in place and it was like this beautiful picture, and what it says is you're fucked. Really? That's what we've been doing this whole time, is coloring by numbers until finally the picture laughs at us for being chimps and not really understanding what we were doing. Yes, that's exactly right. That's what they're going to do. And everyone's going to have a big party. And you were partying, right, along with everybody else. I was partying. We're all having a big party. No one was worried about it, except I'm sitting here and I'm really worried that people are being lied to. And it's being done deliberately. And people don't really care enough about what's going to happen to them because it hasn't happened yet, right? They don't really care. Until the invading army is in the fields outside the gate, until they're approaching the fields with the gates, with the cannons and the siege engines and the towers and the knights mounted on cavalry, until you can see them out there. It was just a nebulous threat. And now that you see them out there, now that you see the impacts of global heating and you see the tornado outbreaks and you see the massive hurricanes coming ashore and you see the collapse of the agricultural system and you see the refugees gathering at the border and all the crappy politicians, they're weaponizing all of this and then religion gets involved and then the economists come out and say, well, we can't do anything because we'll interfere with economic growth and all these different things, and they're threatening your party and they're threatening to pull you down and they're threatening to take away your pleasures and your freedoms, and you just didn't want to hear it. And you did the right thing. You had a climate change shaped box in your head and everything went in there and it sounded like there's a problem, but someone was going to figure it out, and don't worry yourself about it. Party on, Garth. Right. And so you did, until someday when you've colored in you did all the numbers, you did the 1, the 1.5, and the 2, and the 2.3, and you colored in all the little boxes with all the paints according to the formula that someone told you was the formula. This was your salvation. Just color in all the boxes according to the numbers. Just keep focusing on the numbers. Don't worry about how we're coming up with the numbers. Just color in the numbers, color by numbers. Don't think about it. Just follow the rules. We're giving you the rules. Just follow the rules and you'll be fine. And at the end, it says you're fucked. That's what they wanted. They didn't want you to worry. They didn't want you to see what was going to happen to you. They didn't show you the picture at first. That would have been a nice trick, right? They show you the picture at first. Like the picture is on the cover of the puzzle, right? When you buy the 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, right? You buy the 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle and they show you it's on the cover of the box. When you open the box, that's not what you see. You just see all the pieces scattered around. You say, this is going to be fun. So you look at the box and you see, I see. This is Paris during the World's Fair, and this is Eiffel Tower, and this is the Pavilion of Progress. And I get it. So you set the picture aside, and then you start picking up the puzzle pieces, and you have some sort of theory of puzzle making, and so you start assembling the puzzle. But you have the picture in advance. That's the point, right? Some people, I guess, if they're extreme puzzlers, they don't even look at the picture. They put it aside. Okay, I don't have the picture. I'm going to figure this out. But with regards to climate change, that is the latter. They're not giving us the picture to look at. You really are just going to have to do the best you can and build the puzzle one piece at a time and create the painting one number at a time, one paint tray color at a time, right? And until finally you see the picture. And if the picture is you're fucked, well, that's your fault. They're going to blame you for that. You didn't see the whole picture. You just wanted to solve the puzzle. You just wanted to live your life and solve the puzzle of life. And you didn't see the whole picture. That's not our fault. That's your fault. They're going to blame you for that. They're going to blame you for that. They're not going to blame me. I see the picture. I know what the hell's going on. I know what's going on. It's global heating. That's what the hell's going on. It's here. It's here already. And it's going to tear countries apart. Entire countries are going to be torn to pieces, torn to shreds by this. Well, you can't know that. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. This Titanic has hit that iceberg and this bitch is going down. You tell me I don't know what's happening? Yeah. Look at the angle of the deck. Why don't you? You think this thing isn't going down? Well, they might do something to fix it. No, they can't. There's more water coming in than they can pump out. And this sucker, and the deck is going like this, and this sucker's going down. Just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before this thing just slides beneath the waves. Goodbye, one and done. Yeah, this is what's happening to us right now. We've already hit the iceberg. I don't know what the hell we're going to do. I don't know how we get out of this fix. We don't. We really don't. And lots of people are now coming to that realization. A lot of people have been doing the color by numbers thing, and they're seeing enough of the picture at this point. There are people who are paying attention. They've seen enough of the picture to know that we're fucked. And they're saying it that way. We are pretty much fucked. And what are we supposed to do? What are you supposed to do when you're screwed? What are you supposed to do? Well, if you're on the Titanic, you get to a lifeboat, I guess. Well, we're not on the Titanic. We're in democracies. We're in an industrialized civilization. We have a particularly hard problem to fix. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. Well, there is. There is a world outside global industrialized civilization. There is. You don't want to think about that. But there is a world beyond the limits of global industrialized civilization. There's a place where people don't die from the collapse of globalized industrialized civilization because they've already gotten off. And if you can just get away, if you can extricate yourself from the trap because you could see the pattern developing and you understand that the narrative warfare is exactly what it sounds like. It's just warfare. It's meant for them to win. They are at war with our brains and our anxieties, and they are determined to win, and they are set up to win. They have set up the board. They have set the board, and they're moving all the pieces around, and they're going to win this game. We're not going to do anything, except you can get off the boat. You can get off the boat. You don't have to go down with the ship. What does that mean for you personally? I don't know. It's going to be a lot harder for some people than others. I tell you that. Money, maybe it makes a difference. I don't know. Maybe it takes a lot of money to get off this Titanic. I don't know. Maybe it does. Probably it does. But another avenue is you just work with people. You pool your resources. And if there's something you don't have, well, by pulling together with others, maybe you can come up with it. I've been calling that village life. What was village life about? Village life was about a lone monkey is a dead monkey. And if you want to survive in a somewhat slightly hostile environment, which kind of described the earth before we conquered it and set it on fire, then, you have to be with a troop. You got to be in a social environment. You have to be surrounded by people of a like mind who will look out for you. And that place has to be secure. Maybe you need a perimeter. And depending on the things you're trying to secure yourself against, like maybe it's just wolves, maybe your perimeter has to be hardened in a particular depth, at a particular height, and the wolves can't get in. But if your enemy is, the Viking raiders, maybe that's not good enough. Maybe you have to have stone walls, and the walls have to be 40 feet high. And maybe that's not good enough. Maybe you need multiple curtain walls. Who knows? Your situation will dictate what you have to do. And right now, probably more people need to be living village life to some extent and figuring that out. Because when it gets time to jump off of this Titanic called global industrialized civilization, when the numbers just don't work out anymore, when the picture that's being painted is it's going down, and that's not your fault, but you do have responsibility for your survival, right? So if you don't survive, maybe that is your fault. Probably it's not. Okay, I don't want to be mean like that, but there are going to be a lot of people who just don't have any means of survival. They can't get off the ship. There's no second option. There's no plan B. They just go right into the water where it's freezing, and there's things that eat them, and they're gone. It's not their fault. They just didn't have a plan B. No one offered them a plan B. They got on the Titanic and they bought their ticket and they thought they were doing pretty good, and then it hit the iceberg and it went down, and they never planned for that, and there was nowhere else to go, so they went down with the ship. Wow. Okay, that's not your fault. You didn't know when you bought the ticket that you were going to go down with the ship. You didn't know that. Well, here we all are. We're all on this ship called global industrialized civilization, and we all thought it was going to be okay. And we all bought a ticket, and we're all painting by numbers, and they're telling us just follow the rules, follow the rules, and we won't throw you off the ship. Follow the rules, and you'll be okay. And you'll get all the way to New York if you follow the rules. And the rules are posted everywhere. Don't stand here. Don't open this door. Don't be here after a certain time. Don't be here before a certain time. And we have to follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, they throw you off the ship. That's bad. So you followed the rules, and that turned out to be not good enough. You just followed all the rules, and you had a box in your head named climate change, and you listened to all the climate change things, and you nodded your head, and you put all the bad news, all your anxieties in the climate change box, and then they come along and they say, oh, well, that actually wasn't the solution. You should have been listening to us. You should have been listening to that cougar guy, because he actually knows what the hell's going on. Yeah, you're being lied to. Not lies. You're being led astray. They told you the Titanic couldn't be sunk, and you believed them. Any ship can sink. Any ship can sink. And so you got on there. You didn't have a plan B. You didn't even look to see if there were lifeboats, because it said right there it's unsinkable. And they're telling you, oh, your global industrialized civilization, that thing, oh, that's unsinkable. This is forever and eternal. And don't worry about the climate change thing. That's just a blip, right? Just a blip on the horizon. Don't worry about it. We have people working on that. Just be aware. Have a box in your head that says climate change. Just be aware. If you're worried about it, just be aware, okay? And we've already told you we're not going to exceed 1.5, and we're not going to exceed 2.0, and we probably won't exceed 5, but we might. And if we do exceed 5, we won't exceed 3. It's just numbers, right? To throw it all in the box and just follow the rules and you'll be fine and you can live your best life and just party on. And when that doesn't work for you and you're technically fucked, well, you had a nice time, didn't you? We didn't restrict you in any way. You never wanted restrictions. You never wanted a plan B. You never wanted to have to think about it. And if you did want to think about it and you were willing to think about it, we gave you a climate change box to think about. And that was non-threatening. Climate change, that's not threatening. And all our solutions were, let someone else figure it out. That's basically what their solutions are. And we never asked you to stop burning fossil fuels. And we never put a carbon price on fossil fuels. And we never made fossil fuels expensive. We never made fossil fuels unavailable. We never talked about fossil fuels. We never said your life dependent on fossil fuels is going to have to end. We never said that, except that Cougar guy. That's all he could talk about. What the fuck's wrong with him? That's all he could ever talk about. Tell him to shut up. You don't want to listen to him. Listen to us. Climate change. Numbers. Paint by numbers. Follow the rules. You'll be fine. Let us figure it out for you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And don't listen to that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yes, I do. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about physics. Global heating. It's getting hot out here, folks. And it's not even the temperature of the air where you are, where you're standing, the sidewalk you're standing on, the backyard you're working in. It's not even that. The planet getting hot has nothing to do with sensible heat where you are and when you are. The planet getting hot is the oceans are getting hot. That changes how the Earth behaves as a system. The atmosphere is getting hot. That changes how the Earth behaves as a system. The ice is melting. That changes how the Earth behaves as a system. The global oceanic currents are changing, and that changes how the Earth behaves as a system. These are system changes. These are system changes. These are all system changes based on global heating. The system is changing. The Earth dynamic system is changing. That's not weather, and that's not climate change. It's not anything they've ever told you because they didn't want you to think about it. They didn't want you to know. I'm not afraid of letting you know. The Earth dynamic system is on an excursion. It's moving. It's moving. It's on the move. It's going to drag us with it because we don't have a choice. This is the only planet we have. You can't go to another planet that's not on an excursion. You have to be on this planet that is. And so you're going to be dragged along, kicking and screaming. And people will be telling you, don't worry, it's the weather. And they'll tell you, don't worry, it's the climate change, which changes the weather. And they're going to tell you, don't worry about it. And besides, we haven't exceeded 2.0, although that was last year's benchmark. Now we're not exceeding 2.5. Don't worry about it. Numbers, numbers, numbers. And the next number will be 3.0. We haven't exceeded that one. And that's the only one that really matters. And okay, we exceeded 3.0, but here's a new number, 3.5. We won't exceed that. Promise. Pinky swear. Okay. And you just keep going along. You just kept going along. Meanwhile, the planet was getting hotter. And the Earth dynamic system was changing because of the heat, not because of the 1.5 and the 2.0 and the 3.4. It was changing because of the heat, because of the greenhouse effect, because we kept burning fossil fuels, because no one told us to stop. So we just kept doing it. We kept having a party and nothing changed. And everything was changing. And no one told us it was changing because they didn't want us to know. I know it's changing. I'm a systems scientist. I know exactly what's going on. And I'm not the only one. Oh, by the way, lots of people are noticing, but they're not getting platformed. They're not going to be on CNN. Dr. Fauci is on CNN today. No one's going to put anybody else on there who's going to talk to us about global heating and system dynamics and how the Earth is on an excursion and it's dragging us someplace that we don't want to go. No one's going to be on CNN talking about that. We're still talking about COVID-19 and Dr. Fauci. For fuck's sake. You got bigger problems than COVID-19. And you got bigger problems than if Dr. Fauci is an actual doctor. That's not your fucking problem right now, you pinheads. That's drama. That's monkey shit. That's monkey business. You just like a bunch of chimps. Ook, ook, ook. Look at the funny looking monkey. And let's make his life miserable because COVID-19 was bullshit. And I hated that. And all the lockdowns and all the freedoms that got taken away and everything else. And it was all a conspiracy. And now we have to punish Dr. Fauci because he's not even a doctor, which he is. It doesn't matter. It's all narrative warfare. And they're keeping you from understanding that the Earth system is on the move. It's on an excursion and it's dragging you along with it. And they don't want you to know that. And they're never going to put anybody like me on CNN to talk about Earth system dynamics and how global heating is going to kill a bunch of you motherfuckers. And that's exactly that's exactly the way I would phrase it. Yeah, you people are all going to die. I wish I had an example of it, but there's a meme from way back when, like, I don't know, 1998 or something, where a talking head, a news anchor, right, has a scientist. You've seen this. Everyone in this space has seen this, right? And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Make a comment in the make a note in the comments. Link to it if you want to. Where this talking head, this news anchor has an actual scientist on and asks the questions. You know, it's like Phil Donahue or something like that. Asks the questions, says, and basically, you know, the scientist ends up, you know, the news anchor says, okay, so we can solve this, right? And the scientist says, no. What do you mean we can't solve this? Well, there just is no solution. So what's going to happen? Well, most of you are going to die. And the news anchor is like, what's happening here? You know, and the people in the control room are like, cut, you know, go to commercial, right? And they just keep talking. And it says, well, so that's really bad news. And is there any good news? No, there's no good news. Just go along like we're going, and then a bunch of people die, and then it's over. You know, and of course it's not real that this is Hollywood, right? That this whole conversation took place, because this conversation will never take place. I'm never going to be invited on CNN. You're never going to see me on your local Channel 5 or whatever it is, you know, saying, yeah, you're kind of screwed. No, there's no solution. Yeah, physics wins this one. And, you know, some of us will survive probably. I don't think extinction is a thing, but hey, you know, a 99.9% die off is going to hurt. Lots of people are going to die. We may end up with what, 80 million, 800,000 people? Who knows? 8 million people? Yeah, that'll be really bad. Not extinction, but still, it's going to hurt. And we may lose a lot of technology, but whatever. Can't do anything about it now. Couldn't we stop burning fossil fuels? Yeah, you probably should, but you're not going to. And even if you did, it may be too late. That's the bad news. The system is on the move. It can't go backwards. It only goes forward. And we don't even know where it's going. It's just going to take us there kicking and screaming. And it's going to pummel us with tornadoes and hurricanes and massive hail down and crop failures and refugee crises and the rivers overflowing their banks every other week. And, that's where you're going. And once we arrive, wherever that system is going to take us, and global heating finally plateaus and levels out, and the system finally adjusts to the new level of energy in the system, and that plateaus out, and we may find ourselves living on a planet that's too hot to inhabit, that technically, and maybe too much rain and too much heat and too much drought and too much crop failure and too much everything. And maybe we're living underground and eating Soylent Green, right? Could be. Not out of the question. Just don't know. Hard to say, but it can't be good because it's going to be hot. And, maybe we'll be living underground, and maybe we'll have artificial food. And maybe if you want to go up on the surface, we'll have really nice spacesuits you can wear. So you can go up on the surface and see the remaining animal life, right? The scorpions, the cockroaches, those kind of things. And what we do on the surface, I don't know, but that could be where we're going, where you could wear a spacesuit and go up on the surface because it's 145 degrees all the time. And, you set your foot up there, and without a spacesuit on and a respirator and cooling, and you inhale that kind of air, it just sears your lungs and you die. You just fall down dead. It sears your lungs, cooks your lungs on the inside, and you fall down dead. So you can't do that. But that could be where we're going, 145 degrees all the time, possible. Yeah, not out of the question. What can we do about it? I don't know, maybe nothing. You could start by not burning fossil fuels, but you're not going to do that because you like your party. And they're going to come along and assure you that don't worry about it. So long as you don't exceed 2.0, a number, which means nothing to you, so long as you don't exceed 2.0, you'll be fine. And when we exceed 2.0, they'll say, so long as you don't exceed 2.4, you'll be fine. And we'll exceed 2.4. And what, some people will notice that the number keeps going up. Why is that? What was wrong with 1.5? We just blew right through that. Now we're up to 2.5. And you were saying 1.5 was the limit. And now we're at 2.5. That's the new limit. What happened to 1.5? Did we decide it was okay? Can I see the paper? The scientific work where they said actually 1.5 was a bad idea. We have a better idea now. It's more like 2.5. Can I see that work? Was there science about that? No, there wasn't. So you just fucking changed it. No one's going to have that conversation with the leadership. They're just not. They're going to say, oh, 2.5. Have we exceeded it? We haven't? Okay, great. Party on. They're just going to keep doing it. And you'll keep doing it. And I'll keep doing it. There's nothing we can do. We're stuck in our lives. Now, my life isn't too bad because I've got a supermarket down there and one across the way. So I could walk to where my food is. But my food doesn't walk to the supermarket. My food is brought to the supermarket in a truck. So I'm still eating fossil fuels, even though I don't use a truck to go there to get the food. I walk there to get the food, but the food doesn't walk there to get to the store. You see, that's pretty obvious, right? When I say it like that, it's pretty obvious. And the food came from a warehouse. Well, how did the food get to the warehouse? Did it walk? No, it didn't. It came to the warehouse on a diesel truck. And okay, so where'd the diesel truck pick it up? It picked it up 3,000 miles away in the Midwest or in Texas or in, Chicago or someplace where they make food in cans and food in bags and food in crates. Okay, well, how did it get to the warehouse? Well, there was a whole other bunch of trucks that hauled it from the field. And how'd the food get in the field? There's a whole nother bunch of equipment that planted the seeds and harvested the plants at the end. And it's like it's just elephants all the way down. There's no end to it. So the fact that I walk to the market to get my food doesn't save me. It doesn't. So my narrative about, well, I don't really care about climate change because I don't drive. That's whatever. You're still on the Titanic. You're still stuck on the same system the rest of us are. So yeah, I walk to the Whole Foods. I walk to the Trader Joe's and get my groceries. But then the groceries come wrapped in plastic, right? It's like, well, do I need all this plastic? What am I going to do with all this plastic? And this is fossil fuels. And it's obvious that it's not going to work. It's never going to work. Well, okay, so you can grow food in your backyard. You can do that. And, the temperature is increasing every day. But you can kind of opt out of all this and you can start growing food in your backyard. But that's something until the plants can't grow anymore because it got too hot. And then what do? Well, then you build a structure with air conditioning and you grow your plants inside of a structure with air conditioning. And did you sign up for that 10 years before? Well, now we're at 3.4 degrees C above baseline. And even the baseline has been moving, right? They don't tell you that's what they're doing, but they are. And so in reality, compared to, say, a 1650s baseline, we're maybe 5 degrees C above. And you weren't ready for that. And the Earth dynamic system doesn't care what you're ready for. It's just getting hot, and it's really hot, and it just gets hotter every day. It gets hotter every year, and the heat has nowhere to go, and it just burns this and cooks that and boils something else and spins up the tornadoes and spins up the hurricanes and all the storm surge and washing the homes back out to sea. And the Earth dynamic system is just spinning up and spinning up and spinning up. And they're telling you, we have a new number for you. Pay attention to this one and put this one in your climate change box. And here's a different number. And here's a different baseline. We're moving these things around and color by numbers, color by numbers, color by numbers. Don't ask any questions. Just follow the rules. Follow the rules. We're giving you numbers. Pay attention to the numbers. We gave you a box called climate change. Put the number in there. Stop thinking. And don't listen to that cougar fucker because he'll scare the shit out of you. Yeah, scaring the shit out of you because it's scary. And I'm not the only one saying it. Lots of people are saying it. They're not going to be on CNN saying it. They're not going to be on Fox News saying it. Fuck no, not Fox News. Are you kidding? They're never going to be platformed. We never get any attention. Nobody wants to hear it. You're here. Okay. Good on you. I know it's scary. I'm sorry that it's scary, except I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's scary. Be scared. Start thinking about what you're going to do. What are we going to do? Well, whatever it is we do, we're going to have to do it together, right? It's called village life. Don't be afraid of that, because that's all you've got at this point. Village life is all we've got at this point. Hyper local. Grow your own food. Sew your own clothes. Have your chickens. Have your pigs. Build up your perimeter. Plant your plants. Keep them cool. Put shade cloth over them. Oh my God, it's a lot of money. But worse than the money, it's the cooperation. Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to get off of this ship? that just hit the iceberg? Are you willing to do that? It's going to be hard. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be scary. It's going to be embarrassing. People are going to look at you like, wow, you're a nut. You're in the middle of the most powerful country on earth and you're trying to get off? Really? Where are you going to live like an Amish? You're going to ride a fucking horse? What's your problem? You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it. Or you're going to go down with the ship. And you still might go down with the ship. That's the evil backside to this whole thing. We might still go down with the ship. But what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Just sit here and take it? I don't want this. I don't want this. But we can't escape it. It's coming. God save us, it's coming. And it's not climate change. And it's not 1.5 and 2.0. And it's not the 8.5 RPCs. And it's not the Paris Climate Accords. And it's not the IPCC, AR7. It's none of these things. It's global heating. It's physics. It's just going to cook us. We're going to cook. And the number doesn't matter. You're going to cook. I'm going to cook. Our food is going to cook before it even gets to the table. It's going to be cooked. It's going to be cooked before it hits the shelves at the supermarket. Everything's going to cook. I don't see a way out. There probably is no way out. What can we do though? People of intelligence will be asking themselves, all right, fine, I believe you. I mean, I don't really understand, but you seem passionate, and other people have been saying similar things, and I catch that once in a while, and it always sets me back a little bit like, I'm hearing this from a lot of different corners, and maybe there is a problem here, but I don't know what to do. And do you know what to do? I don't know what to do either, except I know how to start. I know what is viable. I know what viability looks like. And it looks like people working together, coordinating, setting aside their differences and embracing their shared challenges, all right? And working together toward the goal of mutual and collective survival in what I am calling, for a lack of a term, village life. Self-contained, self-resilient, working with people you know, working with people you trust, understanding the rules, the new rules, okay? The new rules, not the old rules. The 2.5 is fine, except that now 3.5 is fine, all right? Not those rules. Not IPCC rules or COP rules or Paris climate rules or Kyoto rules. Not those rules. They're just making shit up. They're lying to us like we're children. Be a good child. That's the rule. And Santa Claus will bring you presents. Rules, okay? That kind of shit. They're lying to us. Follow the rules. Paint by the numbers. And you'll get the picture. I've already seen the picture. It's scary as fuck, okay? We need new rules. The new rules are village life. I don't know what else to call it. Earth arcs? Survival units? I mean, what do you want to call it? What did Noah call it when he built the ark and he put the people on it? Did he call it Julie? I mean, how did they talk about it? They built something. They put a bunch of people on it. They had a vision that they could sail away in a sea of troubles. What's going to be our narrative? What are we going to do? What are we going to build? What are we going to construct? How are we going to do it? What are our rules for doing this new thing? Because their rules suck. Their rules are going to get us all killed. And then the rules will get them killed because they're stupid. They're morons. They're politicians and economists and spiritual figures. And they're all taking the money and swapping wives and having group sex. I mean, who wants to live by their rules? We know what they're doing. We have to make our own rules. And it's not going to come out of the Paris Climate Accords. No. That was built to distract you. We have to make new rules. We have to figure this out. We need to start talking about this. Oh, I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how to do it. I'll tell you what my philosophy is. I'll tell you what my tactic is. Tactics? Strategy? Maybe it's beyond tactics. It's just strategies at this point. I'm not even near tactics. Tactics are what you're going to do. Tactics are what you do right now. I'm still strategizing. Here's my strategy. I'm going to be listening carefully to people, and when I be watching them and watching their body language and listening to what they say, when looking at my world and watching what's on fire and how are people acting, and at some point I'm going to say to myself, okay, they are sufficiently terrified. They are sufficiently aware that they've been played, and now they're angry and frightened. And now I think we can have an adult discussion about what the plan is, what are the rules, how are we going to save ourselves, what's it going to look like. That's my strategy. I'm waiting. Just waiting. And maybe if I open up CNN and somebody who shares my concerns is on CNN and they're having a conversation with the talking head, like, yeah, basically we're screwed. No, there's really no way out now. Maybe 60 years ago, but that was 60 years ago. Today, different landscape, right? Now we're kind of basically screwed. Everyone's screwed. I'm not going to point to anybody. We're all screwed, and we're all screwed because of what we all did and what we're all continuing to do. So we could stop doing that, but we're still screwed. No, there's no way to be unscrewed at this point. We're just basically the way we are. And the system is going to keep changing, and it's going to keep changing for decades, even if we stop burning fossil fuels today. But we still have to stop burning fossil fuels today because we need to start that pathway of basically saving ourselves and saving each other. And in the meantime, although we can't really save ourselves in the current environment, maybe we can create another environment. We can start collecting people together, having a different set of rules. And maybe if we get enough people and they're dedicated enough and they agree to the rules and everyone follows the rules and we pull together and we're brave and we're fearless and we don't let people divert us and we don't listen to those smarmy fuckers anymore. Maybe with all that whereas and wherefore stacked up, maybe we can save ourselves, or some of us. Maybe some of us can save each other. Possibly. I don't know. Worth a try. I mean, maybe. Yeah, so if I see someone on CNN having that conversation with the worthless talking head, the stupid anchor, and they're having that conversation and they let it go without going to commercial, right? They just let that play out on CNN live, on CNN, front page, 2-inch headline. It's the end of the world and we got to figure this shit out. If I go to CNN, if I go to Fox News, if I go to MSNBC and I start seeing headlines like that, I might say, okay, let's do this. Then I'll be going into tactics. But my strategy right now is to wait. I'm watching you people. What are you going to do? Which way are you going to jump? When you want to jump, I'm ready to jump. I'm ready to jump. I'm ready to trust you. I am. I'm ready to trust you. Sounds stupid, but I am. Maybe I'm stupid, but that's all I've got. All I've got right now is my willingness to trust you when it's time to jump. I'll take you by the hand. I'll take someone else by the hand. We're going to count. Okay, 3, 2, 1, jump. And we're going to jump because I trust you. And I trust myself to be able to figure it out. And we jump in the deep end and we're it's sink or swim, but I think we can swim. I trust us to be able to do that. At some point. And this is not that point. Will that point ever come? Will there ever be a 2-inch headline on CNN that says it's time to jump? You know what? I think there will. I think there will. I think it'll happen. Will it be this year? No. Next year? Maybe. Will I ever see that headline at MSNBC? Maybe. Something like it. Fox News? No. But I don't watch Fox News. And if I get 2 out of 3 that say have the same message, time to jump, boys and girls, time to trust each other, time to do something different, time to define a whole nother set of rules, time to have faith in each other, time to have faith in ourselves, time to have faith that we can figure this out, that we figured out worse things in the past. We can figure this out now. It's going to get bad, but we can muddle through it. When I start seeing that, okay, then I start to unwind. I start to unwind this whole pageant of things we have to do. Just like unrolling a carpet. Here it is. Now just help me unroll this thing. It's a tapestry and you're going to see the picture. Here it is. Here's all the things we have to do. Here's all the steps. Here's all the things we're going to lose and give up. And here's the things we're going to keep. And here's the things we're going to have to reinvent. We're just going to roll this out like a big picture. And you start on one end and you just start cutting your way through it. Just one thing after another. And it's not painting by numbers. We're going to have to take a chance. We're going to have to rely on each other. We're going to have to do things. We're going to have to take a chance. We're going to have to trust. We're going to have to believe. We're going to have to believe that we can do this. Right now, I don't believe it. I'm not seeing the signs. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to have these videos. I'm going to do one every day if I feel like it. I'm going to come on here. I'm going to say the same thing. It's time to jump. And we'll see. Maybe someday someone will say, people keep saying it's time to jump. All right, let's talk about that. And maybe that becomes the national conversation. What's it look like to jump in the deep end, holding hands and trusting each other? What's that look like? How are we going to do that? I don't know. I don't know, man. But we're going to do it. We are. We're going to have to. And it won't be everybody. A lot of people will be running around trying to live their best life. And there's going to be some of us that are going to make the leap. And I hope you're there. I hope you're there with me. I trust you. You're already here. You're listening to me. You've got the message, right? So you're going to be a little further along. You're going to be a little further along in the understanding game. You're painting by numbers right now, but I've already told you that's what you're doing. And so by the time, when the time comes, it's time for us to make a jump. And I'm going to look at you and you say, so you ready for this? And you're going to say, I don't know if I'm ready, but I think I get it. And let's figure it out. Okay. I'll say good enough for me. Good enough for me. All right. Anybody else? You. Okay. We think we can do this. All right. Let's sit down. We have a long talk to have. We got a long conversation, people. And I'm starting the conversation because it's got to start somewhere. But we're all going to have to be on board and we're all going to have to figure this out. I'm calling it Village Life. We can call it something else. It doesn't have to be that, but it has to be something shaped like that. And here's the 100 things we got to figure out. We don't have to figure them all out tonight by midnight, but sometime in the near future, the next few days or the next few weeks or the next month, we got to figure out how we're going to do these 100 things. And what that is, where you're going with that, the picture at the end of doing all these things, it needs to look like we're going to survive. It's Village Life or it's something like that. But the key to it is the actual goal, the thing we're trying to attain is survival. I think we have to do it together. I think we have to figure it out together. I think we can. We just can't do it now. There's not enough people who understand the challenge now to do it now. But they will. And when you run across those people, glom onto them and tell them, look, I hear what you're saying. I'm thinking the same thing. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just weird. Doesn't it feel weird? But I want you to know I'm in. I'm all in, both feet. And you know that. You need to remember that I'm in all but both feet. And even if you and I never cross paths again, even if you never come back to this channel, even if you unsub, even if you block me, even if you never come back here, okay? You got it. You heard it. I know that. And when the time comes, you're going to remember, yeah, we got to do something different, man. Different set of rules. Can't listen to these people anymore. They're leading us down the garden path. That's your responsibility. To watch for people and glom onto them and hold them close and tell them, I hear what you're saying. We need to stick together, even if we don't live under the same roof, even if we don't see each other more than once a month or once a week or once a quarter. We have to stick together. When the shit goes down, I want you at my back. I want someone like you standing right beside me. And I want another one like you on my left. And I want a whole row of people just like you lined up behind me. And I want that line going around the block. And I want the line going around the block the other way. And I want us all to stand together. Because when the time comes, when we have to do it, we're going to hold hands and we're going to jump. That's what we're going to do. We're going to hold hands and we're going to jump. And what comes after that? I hope it's survival. I hope to hell it is. But that's what we have to do. Collect people, trust them, talk to them, trust yourself. And when the shit goes down, it hits the fan, you want them nearby so you can grab them and all of us jump. That's the challenge. They've been lying to you. I'm not. They haven't been telling you what to do. I am. They haven't been telling you how this ends. I have done that. It ends with village life. That's how it ends. People you trust, people you can work with, people who understand, people that don't need an explanation and they don't need an AR-15 to solve their fucking problems, okay? That's what you need. That's where this is going. That's where you're going to be, or you're going to be dead. Choose.